The night Chloe disappeared, Ethan Vale's world collapsed in 14 minutes. One moment she was laughing beside him at the Harbor Festival, clutching cotton candy and begging to ride the carousel again. The next, she was gone, vanished into a crowd of strangers while he turned his back for less than 30 seconds. What Ethan didn't know yet was that his daughter's kidnapping wasn't random. It was planned by men working for a billionaire's enemy. Men who wanted to destroy the woman Ethan had fallen in love with. Men who saw a 6-year-old girl as nothing more than leverage. And the terrifying truth was this: Ethan Vale wasn't the tired, unremarkable single father everyone assumed he was. He was something far more dangerous when someone threatened his daughter. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. This story doesn't start with the kidnapping. It starts 3 weeks earlier, on the night a storm brought a woman into Ethan's life who would change everything, for better and worse. So settle in, watch until the end, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Because what happened in Grayport that autumn wasn't just about love or money or survival. It was about what happens when two broken people finally stop running from the lives they're afraid to want. The storm hit Grayport just after 9 on a Tuesday night in October. Ethan Vale was still at the marina when the first raindrops started hammering the tin roof of his repair shop. He'd been elbow deep in a corroded fuel pump for the past 3 hours, and his back ached like someone had been kicking it. At 32, his body already felt older than it should. Too many years of physical labor. Too many nights sleeping wrong on a secondhand couch because Chloe had nightmares and crawled into his bed. He wiped his hands on a rag that was more grease than fabric and glanced at his phone. 3 missed calls from Mrs. Chen, his neighbor who watched Chloe after school. His stomach dropped. He called her back immediately. "Ethan, thank goodness." Mrs. Chen's voice was warm but tired. "Chloe's fine, don't worry. She just wanted me to remind you that tomorrow's the school bake sale and she needs cupcakes." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Right, cupcakes. I can pick some up from the store if you're running late." "No, I'll handle it." He rubbed his eyes. "Thanks, Mrs. Chen. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up before she could argue. Cupcakes. He'd completely forgotten. Again. He made a mental note to stop by the grocery store on the way home, even though it was almost closing time and he looked like he'd been wrestling engines in a mud pit. The wind outside was picking up. He could hear it howling through the gaps in the marina's chain-link fence, rattling the boats tied to the docks. Most of the other mechanics had gone home hours ago. Ethan stayed because he needed the extra work. The fuel pump job paid $200, and $200 meant Chloe could get new sneakers before winter hit. That was how Ethan's life worked now. Everything came down to math. Rent plus groceries plus utilities plus Chloe's school supplies equaled how many hours he needed to bleed himself dry each week. He loved his daughter more than anything in the world. But some nights, the exhaustion made him wonder if love was enough. He locked up the shop and headed toward his truck, a 15-year-old Ford with a busted taillight and a passenger door that only opened from the outside. The rain was coming down harder now, turning the gravel parking lot into a slick mess. Lightning cracked across the sky, bright enough to make him squint. That's when he saw the headlights. A vehicle was coming down the access road toward the marina, fast, too fast for the conditions. Ethan stopped beside his truck and watched as a black SUV fishtailed on the wet gravel, overcorrected, and slammed into a concrete barrier near the dock entrance. The sound of the impact echoed across the water. "Jesus," Ethan muttered. He ran toward the crash without thinking. The SUV was expensive, something foreign and sleek with tinted windows and rims that probably cost more than Ethan's truck. The front end was crumpled against the barrier, steam rising from the hood. The driver's side door hung open and rain was pouring inside. "Hey!" Ethan shouted. "You okay?" No answer. He reached the vehicle and leaned inside. The airbag had deployed, and there was a woman slumped against it, her face turned away, dark hair soaked with rain, expensive clothes. No visible blood, but she wasn't moving. Ethan's heart kicked into overdrive. He checked her pulse, strong and steady. Relief flooded through him. Then she groaned and shifted, one hand rising to push the airbag away from her face. "Don't move too fast, Ethan said quickly. "You just hit a concrete wall." The woman turned her head and looked at him. Her eyes were sharp, cold, the kind of eyes that cut through bullshit instantly. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was clipped and controlled, like someone used to giving orders. She shoved the airbag aside and tried to sit up, wincing as she did. "You're not fine," Ethan said. "You could have a concussion. Let me call an ambulance." "No." It wasn't a request. It was a command. Ethan frowned. "Look, lady, you just crashed your car in the middle of a storm. You need medical attention." "I said no." She unbuckled her seatbelt and tried to climb out of the SUV, but her legs weren't cooperating. She stumbled, and Ethan caught her before she hit the gravel. She was lighter than he expected. Taller, too, once she was standing. Maybe 5'9" in the heels she was somehow still wearing. She pulled away from him immediately, like his touch burned. "I don't need your help," she said. "Yeah, you've made that clear." She looked around, rain streaming down her face. Her SUV was totaled. The marina was empty except for Ethan's truck. The nearest town was 3 miles away, and the storm was getting worse. Ethan could see the exact moment she realized how screwed she was. "There's a motel about 10 minutes from here," he offered. "I can give you a ride." She studied him with those cold, calculating eyes. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're stranded in the middle of a storm, and your car's not going anywhere tonight." "You don't know me. Don't need to." She didn't respond right away, just kept staring at him like she was trying to figure out what his angle was. Finally, she said, "Fine, but I'm paying you for the ride. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money." Ethan felt a spike of irritation. "Not from you." That seemed to throw her off balance. She blinked, and for just a second the coldness in her expression cracked. Then it was back, and she was all business again. "I need to get my bag," she said. She retrieved a leather briefcase from the back seat of the SUV, then followed Ethan to his truck. He opened the passenger door for her, the one that only worked from the outside, and she climbed in without comment. The drive to the motel was silent, except for the rain hammering the windshield and the broken wiper on the driver's side squeaking with every pass. Ethan glanced at her a few times. She was staring straight ahead, her jaw tight, her hands gripping the briefcase like it contained something irreplaceable. She looked tense, exhausted, angry. He didn't ask questions. People came to Grayport for a lot of reasons, and most of those reasons were none of his business. When they pulled up to the Anchor Inn, a squat, faded building with a flickering neon sign, the woman didn't move right away. "This is it?" she asked. "Only place around here," Ethan said. "It's not the Ritz, but it's clean." She let out a breath that might have been a laugh, or maybe just exhaustion. "Fine." She opened the door and stepped out into the rain. She opened the door and then she paused and looked back at him. "Thank you," she said. It sounded like the words didn't come easy. Ethan nodded. "Good luck." He watched her walk into the motel office, briefcase clutched against her chest, before he pulled away and headed home. But by the time Ethan got back to his apartment, it was nearly 10:30. Mrs. Chen met him at the door with Chloe already asleep in her arms. "She tried to wait up for you," Mrs. Chen said gently, "but she had a long day." Ethan took his daughter carefully, feeling the familiar weight of her small body against his chest. Chloe's face was peaceful in sleep, her mouth slightly open, one hand curled into a loose fist. "I'm sorry I'm late," Ethan said quietly. "Don't apologize." Mrs. Chen patted his arm. "You're doing your best." Ethan wasn't sure that was true, but he nodded anyway. After Mrs. Chen left, he carried Chloe to her bedroom, a small space he'd painted lavender because it was her favorite color. He tucked her into bed and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. She stirred. "Daddy?" "I'm here, sweetheart." "Did you remember the cupcakes?" Ethan's stomach sank. He'd completely forgotten to stop at the store. "I'll take care of it," he said softly. "Go back to sleep." Chloe mumbled something incoherent and rolled over, clutching her stuffed dinosaur. Ethan stood there for a long moment, watching her breathe. Some days he felt like he was drowning, like every choice he made was wrong, and every responsibility was too heavy. But then he'd look at Chloe, at the way she trusted him completely, the way she smiled when he came home, and he'd find a reason to keep going. He just wished he didn't feel so alone while doing it. Shamsek. The next morning, Ethan woke up at 5:30 to the sound of his alarm blaring. He dragged himself out of bed, made coffee that tasted like burnt water, and spent 45 minutes baking chocolate cupcakes from a box mix he found in the back of the cupboard. They came out lopsided and slightly burnt on the edges. Chloe loved them anyway. "These are the best cupcakes ever, Daddy," she announced at breakfast, chocolate frosting smeared across her face. Ethan smiled despite his exhaustion. Glad you think so, kiddo. He dropped her off at school, kissed her forehead, and promised to pick her up at 3. Then he drove back to the marina and threw himself into work. He didn't think about the woman from the night before, at least not until she showed up at his shop that afternoon. Ethan was underneath a sailboat replacing a rusted propeller shaft when he heard footsteps on the dock. Excuse me. That voice. Clipped, controlled. He slid out from under the boat and looked up. The woman from the storm was standing there, still dressed too expensively for Greyport, though she'd traded the heels for flat boots. Her dark hair was pulled back, and she was wearing sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. Ethan stood, wiping grease off his hands. You found me. I asked around, she said. People remember the guy who helped the stranded woman at the marina. Small town. I noticed. She handed him an envelope. For last night. Ethan didn't take it. I told you I don't want your money. And I told you everyone wants money. Not from you, he repeated. Her jaw tightened. Why not? Because you needed help, and I gave it. That's not a transaction. She stared at him like he'd just said something in a language she didn't understand. Then she lowered the envelope slowly. I'm not used to people doing things without wanting something in return, she said. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. That cracked something in her expression again, just for a second. Then it was gone. I'm Selena, she said. Ethan. They shook hands. Her grip was firm, businesslike. I'm staying in town for a few weeks, Selena continued. My car's being towed to a repair shop, but I need a place to stay that's not the Anchor Inn. There's a rental house near the harbor, Ethan offered. Mrs. Donovan owns it. She's usually pretty flexible. Can you take me there? Ethan hesitated. He had work to finish. But something about the way Selena was standing there, tense, guarded, like she was bracing for him to say no, made him nod. Yeah, give me 10 minutes. The rental house was small but clean, with a view of the harbor and a front porch that faced the water. Mrs. Donovan was delighted to have a tenant and didn't ask too many questions. Selena paid 3 months' rent up front in cash, which made Mrs. Donovan's eyes go wide. As they walked back to Ethan's truck, Selena said, Thank you. Again. You're going to owe me a lot of thank yous at this rate, Ethan said. She almost smiled. I'll try to stop needing your help, but good luck with that. Greyport has a way of trapping people. Is that what happened to you? Ethan's jaw tightened. Something like that. Selena didn't push. She just nodded and climbed into the truck. As Ethan drove her back to the marina to pick up some supplies, he couldn't shake the feeling that Selena Arden wasn't just passing through Greyport. She was running from something. And whatever it wasn't finished with her yet. Boy. Over the next few days, Ethan kept running into Selena. She'd show up at the marina in the mornings, watching him work. She'd ask questions about the boats, the engines, the town. At first, Ethan thought she was just bored, but then he realized she was genuinely curious. Why do you care about fuel pumps? He asked one afternoon, half joking. I like understanding how things work, Selena said. Engines are logical, predictable. Unlike people? Exactly. Ethan laughed despite himself. Selena started helping him with small tasks, handing him tools, holding parts steady while he worked. She was smart and picked things up quickly. And she didn't complain about getting her hands dirty, which surprised him. One evening, Chloe came with him to the marina after school because Mrs. Chen had a doctor's appointment. Chloe sat on a dock bench, swinging her legs and coloring in a dinosaur book. Selena noticed her immediately. Who's that? She asked. My daughter, Chloe. Selena's expression shifted, something softer, more uncertain. She's beautiful. Yeah, Ethan said quietly. She is. Selena walked over to Chloe and crouched down beside her. What are you drawing? Chloe looked up, her eyes wide. A T-Rex. His name is Gerald. Gerald's a good name for a T-Rex. Chloe beamed. Do you like dinosaurs? I don't know much about them, Selena admitted. I can teach you, Chloe said eagerly. Did you know that T-Rexes couldn't actually roar? They probably made sounds like birds. Selena blinked. I did not know that. Chloe launched into a detailed explanation of dinosaur vocalizations, and Selena listened with an intensity that made Ethan's chest ache. When they left the marina that night, Chloe wouldn't stop talking about the nice lady who likes Gerald. Ethan didn't tell her that the nice lady was probably the most complicated person he'd ever met. 2 weeks into Selena's stay in Greyport, Ethan invited her to the town's autumn festival. He didn't mean to. It just slipped out one afternoon when Chloe was begging him to win her a stuffed elephant from the ring toss booth. You should come, Ethan said to Selena, if you're not busy. But Selena looked surprised. Why? Because you've been in town for 2 weeks and you haven't done anything except hang around the marina. I like the marina. I know, but you might like the festival too. Selena hesitated. Then she nodded. Okay. The festival was everything Greyport did well. Local food, handmade crafts, live music, and a carnival set up along the waterfront. Chloe dragged them from booth to booth, her energy seemingly endless. Selena bought her cotton candy, then a caramel apple, then a bag of popcorn. Ethan tried to stop her, but Selena waved him off. Let me spoil her a little, Selena said. You don't have to. I know. There was something in her voice that made Ethan stop arguing. Later, while Chloe was on the carousel, Ethan and Selena stood by the railing overlooking the harbor. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and orange. This town is nice, Selena said quietly. It's small. I like small. Ethan glanced at her. You don't seem like a small-town person. Selena smiled faintly. I'm not, but maybe that's the problem. Before Ethan could respond, Chloe came running over, her face flushed with excitement. Daddy, can we go on the Ferris wheel? Ethan looked at the rickety ride towering over the festival. I don't know, sweetheart. That thing looks like it's held together with duct tape. Please, Chloe begged. Selena can come too. Selena raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure I'm a Ferris wheel person. Everyone's a Ferris wheel person, Chloe insisted. Somehow, they ended up on the ride. The three of them squeezed into a metal cart that swayed alarmingly as it lifted them into the air. Chloe sat between Ethan and Selena, her hands gripping the safety bar. This is the best day ever, Chloe announced. Ethan looked at Selena. She was staring out at the harbor, her expression unreadable. You okay? He asked. Selena turned to him. For the first time since they'd met, she looked vulnerable. I haven't had a day like this in a long time, she said softly. Ethan didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. And when the Ferris wheel reached the top and paused, the three of them sat there together, suspended above Greyport, watching the lights flicker on across the water. For just a moment, it felt like they were a family. That night, after Chloe was asleep, Ethan stood on his apartment balcony and stared at the harbor. He thought about Selena, about the way she'd looked at Chloe, about the walls she kept around herself and the cracks that kept appearing in them. He thought about how dangerous it was to start caring about someone whose life was clearly more complicated than she was letting on. And he thought about how, despite all of that, he was already starting to fall. The morning after the festival, Ethan woke to find Chloe standing beside his bed, holding her stuffed elephant and staring at him with unsettling intensity. When is Selena coming over? She asked. Ethan groaned and squinted at the clock. 6:15. Why are you awake? I had a dream about dinosaurs and Ferris wheels. When is Selena coming? She's not coming over, sweetheart. She has her own house. Chloe's face fell. But I want to show her my rock collection. Ethan sat up, rubbing his eyes. Chloe, Selena's just someone who's staying in town for a while. She's my friend, Chloe interrupted firmly. And that was the problem, wasn't it? Chloe had already decided Selena belonged in their lives. Kids didn't understand temporary. They didn't know how to protect themselves from people who would eventually leave. Ethan had learned that lesson the hard way when Chloe's mother walked out 3 years ago without a word. Just a note on the kitchen table that said she couldn't do this anymore. He'd been angry for months. Then the anger faded into something worse, a dull, constant ache that made him believe he'd somehow failed at being enough to make someone stay. He wasn't going to let Chloe feel that way. How about we get pancakes instead? Ethan offered. Chloe considered this. Can Selena come? Chloe, please? Ethan sighed. He was too tired to argue with the 6-year-old who'd inherited his stubbornness. I'll ask her, he said. But if she's busy, we're not going to bother her. Deal? Deal! Chloe ran off to get dressed, leaving Ethan sitting on the edge of his bed wondering how his life had gotten so complicated in less than 3 weeks. He texted Selena, fully expecting her to say no. She said yes. They met at the Bluebird Diner, a cramped little place on Main Street that smelled like bacon grease and coffee. Selena arrived exactly on time, wearing jeans and a plain sweater that probably cost more than Ethan's rent, but looked normal enough that nobody stared. Chloe launched into an explanation of her rock collection before Selena even sat down. And this one's granite, but Daddy says it might be quartz. And this one I found by the lighthouse. And Mrs. Chen says it's probably just a regular rock, but I think it's special. Breathe, kiddo, Ethan said gently. Selena smiled. A real smile this time, not the tight, controlled version she usually wore. I'd love to see your collection sometime. Chloe's face lit up like Christmas morning. They ordered breakfast. Chloe got chocolate chip pancakes and spent the entire meal talking about dinosaurs, school, and a boy named Trevor who kept stealing her erasers. Selena listened like Chloe was the most interesting person in the world. Ethan watched them and felt something dangerous taking root in his chest. After breakfast, Chloe insisted they walk down to the harbor. The morning was cold and gray, the kind of weather that made Grayport feel even smaller than it was. They wandered along the docks while Chloe collected shells and chased seagulls. She's a good kid, Selena said quietly. Yeah, she is. You're doing a good job with her. Ethan shrugged. Most days it feels like I'm barely keeping my head above water. That's what good parenting looks like. He glanced at her. You sound like you know something about it. Selena's expression shuddered. I don't. I just know what bad parenting looks like. Ethan wanted to ask what she meant, but Chloe came running over with a broken sand dollar, and the moment passed. Later, as they were heading back to the parking lot, a man approached them. He was older, maybe 60, with a weathered face and a fishing cap. Ethan Vale, the man said warmly. Haven't seen you around in a while. Hey, Mr. Briggs. Been busy at the marina. Mr. Briggs's eyes slid to Selena, then back to Ethan, and his expression shifted into something knowing. I see that. Well, don't be a stranger. And bring your lady friend to the pub sometime. First round's on me. He walked off before Ethan could correct him. Selena raised an eyebrow. Your lady friend? Small towns, Ethan muttered. Everyone thinks they know your business. Do they? Not even close. But the truth was, Ethan didn't know his own business anymore. He didn't know what he was doing with Selena or why he kept finding excuses to spend time with her. All he knew was that when she wasn't around, he noticed her absence. And that scared the hell out of him. That afternoon, after he dropped Chloe off at a birthday party, Ethan went back to the marina. He had a backlog of work and not enough hours in the day to finish it. He was replacing a corroded battery terminal when Selena showed up again. You're always here, she said. It's my job. Don't you ever take a day off? Can't afford to. Selena didn't respond right away. She just stood there, watching him work with that same intensity she always had. Can I help? She asked finally. Ethan looked up, surprised. You want to help me fix a battery terminal? Why not? Because you're... He stopped himself. I'm what? Rich, too polished for grease and rust, clearly from a world that didn't involve manual labor. But he didn't say any of that. You'll ruin your clothes, he said instead. Selena pulled off her sweater, revealing a plain white t-shirt underneath. Problem solved. Ethan couldn't help but smile. All right, come here. He showed her how to disconnect the old terminal and clean the corrosion off the battery posts. Selena's hands were steady and precise. She asked questions, took direction, and didn't complain when battery acid stained her fingers. You're good at this, Ethan said. I'm good at most things. Must be nice. She glanced at him. It's lonely. The honesty in her voice caught him off guard. They worked in silence for a while, the only sounds the clang of tools and the lap of water against the docks. Then Selena said, Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did Chloe's mother leave? Ethan's hands stilled. He didn't talk about this. Not with anyone. But something about the way Selena asked, careful, not prying, made him answer. I don't know, he said quietly. One day she was here, the next day she wasn't. She left a note saying she couldn't handle being a mother anymore. Did you try to find her? For a while. Then I realized she didn't want to be found. He set down the wrench he was holding. Chloe doesn't remember much about her. Sometimes I don't know if that's a blessing or not. It's a blessing, Selena said firmly. Trust me. There was weight in those words, pain. What about you? Ethan asked. Why are you really in Grayport? Selena looked away. I told you, my car broke down. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Ethan nodded slowly. He knew deflection when he heard it. He'd used it enough himself. They finished the battery in silence, and when Selena left that evening, Ethan felt like something had shifted between them, something fragile and unspoken. The next week passed in a strange rhythm. Selena kept showing up at the marina. Ethan kept letting her help. Chloe kept insisting Selena come over for dinner, and Ethan kept saying yes even though he knew he shouldn't. They fell into a routine that felt dangerously close to normal. Selena learned how to change oil filters. Chloe taught her about triceratops. Ethan cooked spaghetti that was slightly overcooked, and Selena didn't complain. One night, after Chloe fell asleep on the couch during a movie, Selena helped Ethan carry her to bed. She's lucky to have you, Selena said as they stood in Chloe's doorway watching her sleep. I'm the lucky one, Ethan said quietly. When he turned, Selena was looking at him with an expression he couldn't read. What? He asked. Nothing. Just thank you. For what? For letting me be part of this. Even if it's just for a little while. Ethan wanted to tell her she could stay as long as she wanted. But he didn't, because he wasn't sure if that was true or if he was just lying to himself. Everything started unraveling on a Thursday afternoon. Ethan was at the marina when a black sedan pulled into the parking lot. Two men in suits got out, and Ethan immediately knew they didn't belong in Grayport. They walked straight to him. Ethan Vale? The taller one asked. Yeah, who's asking? We're looking for someone. A woman. Dark hair, late 20s, probably staying somewhere in town. Ethan's stomach tightened. Why? That's not your concern. Then I can't help you. The shorter man stepped closer. We're not asking. If you know where she is, you need to tell us. I don't know what you're talking about. The tall one pulled out a phone and showed Ethan a photo. It was Selena. This woman is wanted for questioning in a corporate fraud investigation, the man said. If you're harboring her, you could be charged as an accessory. Ethan forced his expression to stay neutral. I've never seen her. The man studied him for a long moment, then pocketed his phone. If that changes, give us a call. He handed Ethan a business card and walked away. Ethan stood there, staring at the card, his mind racing. Corporate fraud investigation. Wanted for questioning. What the hell had Selena gotten herself into? He drove straight to her rental house. She answered the door in sweatpants and a hoodie, her hair tied back, and for a second she looked almost normal. Then she saw his face. What happened? She asked. Two men just showed up at the marina looking for you. The color drained from Selena's face. What did you tell them? That I'd never seen you. Ethan stepped inside and closed the door. What the hell is going on, Selena? She crossed her arms, her walls snapping back into place. It's complicated. No kidding. They said you're wanted for corporate fraud. I'm not. Then why are they looking for you, huh? Selena turned away, her shoulders tight. Because someone's trying to destroy me, and they're using the law to do it. What does that mean? She spun back around, and for the first time since he'd met her, Ethan saw fear in her eyes. It means I'm in danger. And if you're connected to me, you might be too. Ethan felt like the ground had shifted under him. Who are you? Selena laughed bitterly. I'm Selena Arden. My family owns Arden Technologies. We're worth about $12 billion. And right now, someone inside my own company is trying to take everything from me. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan stared at her. $12 billion. A tech empire. And she'd been hanging around his marina for 3 weeks, fixing engines and eating diner pancakes with his daughter. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. I'm thought. Because the second people know who I am, everything changes. They want something from me. Money, connections, a favor. I thought, her voice cracked. I thought maybe in a place like this, I could just be a person for a while. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Jesus, Selena. I'll leave, she said quickly. Tonight. I'll disappear, and no one will connect us. You and Chloe will be safe. Safe from what? From the people who want to destroy me. Ethan shook his head. You can't just drop this on me and then run. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Selena's voice rose sharp and desperate. You don't understand what these people are capable of. They've already stolen millions from my company. They've planted evidence to make it look like I'm the one committing fraud. And now they're sending men to find me because they know if I stay hidden long enough, I'll figure out who's behind it. Then stay hidden. I can't. Not forever. And I can't drag you into this. Ethan stepped closer. What if I'm already in it? Selena's eyes searched his face. Why would you do that? Because... He stopped. Because why? Because he cared about her? Because Chloe cared about her? Because walking away felt impossible, even though it was the smart thing to do? Because it's the right thing to do, he said finally. Selena's expression crumpled. You don't owe me anything. I know. Then why? Because you're not alone anymore, whether you want to be or not. She stared at him, and Ethan saw the exact moment her control shattered. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she covered her face with her hands. Ethan didn't think. He just pulled her into his arms. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, her shoulders shaking. He held her while she cried, his hand moving in slow circles on her back. I'm so tired, she whispered. I'm so tired of fighting. I know. I don't know what to do. Then let me help you figure it out. She pulled back, her face streaked with tears. You don't know what you're offering. Maybe not, but I'm offering it anyway. Selena wiped her eyes. This is insane. Yeah, probably. Despite everything, she laughed. It was a broken, exhausted sound, but it was real. They sat down at her kitchen table, and Selena told him everything. About the hostile takeover being orchestrated by a board member named Marcus Hale. About the millions being siphoned from company accounts and funneled offshore. About the fake evidence pointing to her as the mastermind. About how she'd fled to Grayport because it was the one place no one would think to look for a tech billionaire. I've been trying to trace the money, Selena said. I have a forensic accountant working on it remotely, but it's slow. Marcus has covered his tracks well. What happens if he succeeds? Ethan asked. I lose the company my family built, and Marcus gets to walk away with everything. Can't you go to the police? With what evidence? Right now, it looks like I'm the criminal. If I surface without proof, I'll be arrested. Ethan leaned back in his chair. So what's the plan? I don't have one. I've been hiding and hoping I'd figure something out. That's not a plan. That's stalling. I know. Ethan thought for a moment. You said you're tracing the money. What do you need to finish it? Time, and access to my company's servers. Can you get access from here? Not without tipping off Marcus. The second I log in, he'll know where I am. Then we need to make him think you're somewhere else. Selena frowned. How? Ethan didn't have an answer yet, but he knew someone who might. The next morning, Ethan took Selena to meet his friend Danny, a former Navy IT specialist who now ran a computer repair shop in town. Danny owed Ethan a favor from years back, and Ethan was calling it in. Danny listened to Selena's situation, asked a dozen technical questions, then leaned back in his chair and grinned. You want me to help you hack into a multi-billion-dollar corporation? I want you to help me access my own company's servers without being detected, Selena corrected. Tomato. Danny cracked his knuckles. All right, I'm in. But if we get caught, I'm blaming Ethan. Deal, Ethan said. They spent the next 3 days building a digital smokescreen. Danny routed Selena's access through a dozen proxy servers, making it look like she was logging in from Singapore. Selena worked around the clock, pulling files and tracing financial records while Ethan brought her coffee and made sure she ate. Chloe didn't understand why Selena was suddenly too busy to visit, but Ethan promised her it was temporary. He hoped that was true. On the fourth day, Selena found it. "I've got him," she said, her voice shaking. "Marcus has been moving money into offshore accounts for 18 months, and he's been using my credentials to authorize the transfers." "Can you prove it wasn't you?" Ethan asked. "Yes. The timestamps show the transfers happening when I was in board meetings or out of the country. I have alibi records for every single one." Danny whistled. "That's solid." Selena looked at Ethan. "This is enough to take to the authorities. But once I do, everything goes public. The media will tear me apart before the truth comes out." "So what?" Ethan said. "You'll survive it." "Will you?" Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" "Once this goes public, people will know I've been here. They'll know about you, about Chloe. Your lives will never be the same." Ethan hadn't thought about that. The attention, the cameras, the gossip. But he looked at Selena, exhausted, terrified, and still fighting, and he knew his answer. "We'll deal with it," he said. Selena's eyes filled with tears again. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." She reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was tight, desperate. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan squeezed her hand. "Let's finish this." They sent the evidence to Selena's lawyers that night. Within 12 hours, the FBI had opened an investigation into Marcus Hale. Within 24 hours, the story broke. And within 48 hours, Grayport was swarming with reporters. The first news van arrived at dawn on Saturday, parking directly across from the marina. By noon, there were 6 more. Reporters with microphones and cameras lined the docks, shouting questions at anyone who walked past. Ethan watched from inside his shop, his jaw tight. "Mr. Vale, can you confirm your relationship with Selena Arden? How long has Ms. Arden been hiding in Grayport? Were you aware of the fraud investigation?" He didn't answer. He locked the shop door and pulled the blinds. His phone had been ringing nonstop since 5 in the morning. Unknown numbers, news outlets, people he hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanting to know if the rumors were true. He turned it off and threw it in a drawer. Chloe was at Mrs. Chen's house, thank God. Ethan had dropped her off before the media circus started, telling Mrs. Chen to keep her inside no matter what. Mrs. Chen had taken one look at his face and nodded without asking questions. Around 2 in the afternoon, someone pounded on the shop door. Ethan ignored it. The pounding continued. "Ethan, it's me. Open up." Selena. He unlocked the door and pulled her inside quickly. She was wearing a baseball cap pulled low and sunglasses, but it didn't matter. A dozen cameras swung in their direction, flashes going off like fireworks. "Are you insane, Ethan hissed. "They're going to follow you everywhere now." "I know. I'm sorry." Selena pulled off the sunglasses. Her eyes were red, her face pale. "I needed to see you." "You should have called." "I tried. Your phone's off." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah, for a reason. I know this is a nightmare. I know I've ruined your life. Stop." "Ethan, I said stop." He took a breath. "You didn't ruin anything. This isn't your fault." "Yes, it is. I brought this here. I should have left when those men showed up. You should have done exactly what you did. You fought back. You exposed the truth. That took guts." Selena laughed bitterly. "Guts. Right. I feel like I'm drowning. Join the club." They stood there in the dim shop, surrounded by the smell of oil and rust, while outside the cameras kept rolling. "What do we do now?" Selena asked quietly. "We wait it out. Eventually they'll get bored and leave." "You don't know the media. They won't leave until they get a story." "Then we don't give them one." Selena shook her head. "It's too late for that. The story's already out there. Billionaire heiress hiding in small town with mysterious single father. They're going to dig into your life, Ethan. They're going to find out everything about you." "There's nothing to find. Everyone has something." Ethan thought about the years after Chloe's mother left. The drinking. The nights he'd sit on the floor of his apartment, wondering if he was capable of being the father Chloe deserved. The therapist he'd seen for 6 months who told him he was carrying shame that didn't belong to him. He'd worked hard to bury that version of himself, and now it was about to be dragged into the light. "Let them dig," he said. "I've got nothing to hide." Selena looked at him like she didn't believe him, but she didn't argue. They stayed in the shop until dark, waiting for the crowd outside to thin. It didn't. If anything, more reporters showed up. Someone had leaked the address of Selena's rental house, and now there were cameras there too. You can't go back there tonight, Ethan said. I don't have anywhere else to go. Yes, you do. Selena frowned. Ethan, I can't stay with you. That'll just make things worse. It's already worse. At least at my place, you'll be safe. What about Chloe? She's at Mrs. Chen's. I'll pick her up in the morning. Selena hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but just for tonight. They left through the back entrance of the marina, cutting through the industrial yard and avoiding the main road. Ethan's truck was parked 2 blocks away, and they made it there without being spotted. The drive to his apartment was silent. Selena stared out the window, her hands clenched in her lap. When they got inside, Ethan handed her a glass of water and told her to sit down. You look like you're about to collapse, he said. I feel like it. When's the last time you ate? Selena thought about it. Yesterday, maybe. Ethan shook his head and went to the kitchen. He made scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy, but it was hot and filling. Selena ate mechanically, like she was forcing herself to go through the motions. When she finished, she set down her fork and looked at him. I'm going to hold a press conference, she said. Ethan blinked. What? Tomorrow. I'm going to face the media and tell them the truth. All of it. About Marcus, about the fraud, about why I came here. Selena, that's a terrible idea. Why? Because they'll tear you apart. You said it yourself. They don't care about the truth. They care about the story. Then I'll give them a story they can't twist. You don't know that. I have to try. Her voice was steady now, firm. I can't keep hiding. And I can't let people think I'm some criminal on the run. The longer I stay silent, the worse it gets. Ethan wanted to argue, but he could see the determination in her eyes. She'd made up her mind. Fine, he said, but I'm going with you. No. Yes. Ethan, if you stand next to me at a press conference, they're going to assume we're together. They're going to make you part of the story. I'm already part of it. Not like this. I don't care. Selena's expression softened. You should. Well, I don't. So deal with it. Yeah. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Selena smiled. A small, tired smile that made Ethan's chest ache. You're an idiot, she said. Yeah, I've been told. She laughed, and some of the tension in the room eased. That night, Selena slept on Ethan's couch. He gave her a blanket and a pillow, then lay awake in his own bed, staring at the ceiling and wondering how his life had turned into this. A month ago, his biggest worry was making rent. Now he was caught in the middle of a corporate scandal involving billions of dollars and a woman who was either the bravest person he'd ever met or the most reckless. Maybe both. The press conference was scheduled for 10 in the morning at the Grayport Community Center. Selena's lawyers flew in overnight and spent 2 hours prepping her on what to say and what not to say. Ethan sat in the corner of the room, watching her transform from the exhausted woman who'd eaten scrambled eggs in his kitchen into the polished, controlled version of herself the world expected. It was like watching someone put on armor. When it was time, Selena walked out onto the small stage at the front of the community center. The room was packed. Reporters, cameras, local residents who'd come to gawk. Ethan stood off to the side, trying to stay out of frame. Selena stepped up to the microphone. The room went silent. My name is Selena Arden, she began, and I'm here to set the record straight. She spoke for 20 minutes. She explained the fraud, the evidence, the investigation. She named Marcus Hale and outlined exactly how he'd stolen from the company. She didn't deflect. She didn't sugarcoat. She laid it all out in a way that was impossible to misunderstand. Then she addressed the rumors. I came to Grayport because I needed time to gather evidence without being watched. I didn't come here to hide. I came here to fight. And yes, I met someone while I was here. Someone who helped me when I had no one else to turn to. Someone who didn't care about my money or my company. He just cared about doing the right thing. His name is Ethan Vale, and he's a better person than most of the people I've spent my life around. The camera swung toward Ethan. He felt his face heat up, but he didn't move. Selena continued, I know there will be speculation about our relationship. People will say I used him or he used me, or this is some kind of publicity stunt. None of that is true. The truth is simple. He helped me because that's who he is, and I'm grateful for it. She paused, her hands gripping the edges of the podium. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for the chance to prove that I didn't do what I've been accused of, and I'm asking the media to leave the people of Greyport alone. They didn't ask to be part of this. They deserve their privacy. She stepped back from the microphone. She stepped. The room erupted with questions, but Selena's lawyer stepped forward and ended the press conference. Ethan met her backstage. She looked drained, like she'd just run a marathon. You did good, he said. I don't know, I might have just made everything worse. You didn't. Selena leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. I need to get out of here. Where do you want to go? Anywhere but here. They slipped out the back entrance and drove to the lighthouse on the edge of town. It was a place Ethan used to go when he needed to think, a quiet spot where the ocean crashed against the rocks and the world felt smaller. They sat on the grass, looking out at the water. The wind was cold, but neither of them moved. Do you regret it? Selena asked. Regret what? Helping me, getting involved in all this. Ethan thought about it. No. Why not? Because it was the right thing to do. That's not enough of a reason. It is for me. Selena turned to look at him. You're a strange man. Ethan Vale. I've been told that too. She smiled, and for a moment the weight of everything seemed to lift, but it didn't last. The next morning the headlines hit. Billionaire heiress's secret affair with small-town mechanic. Selena Arden's mystery man. Who is Ethan Vale? Inside the romance that shocked Silicon Valley. Ethan's phone, which he'd reluctantly turned back on, was flooded with messages. Some were supportive, most were cruel. People he didn't know were calling him a gold digger, a con artist, a deadbeat trying to latch onto a rich woman. Someone had dug up photos of him from years ago, back when he was drinking too much and looked like hell. The photos were all over social media, paired with captions speculating about his motives. Chloe's school called. Parents were complaining. They didn't want their children around that kind of attention. Ethan felt like he was being pulled apart. He went to pick up Chloe from Mrs. Chen's house, and the moment she saw him, she burst into tears. Daddy, why are people saying mean things about you? Ethan's heart broke. Who said mean things, sweetheart? Trevor's mom. She told Mrs. Chen that you're a bad person, but you're not bad. You're the best daddy in the world. Ethan knelt down and pulled Chloe into his arms. Hey, listen to me. People are going to say things that aren't true, but what matters is that you and I know the truth, okay? Okay, Chloe whispered, but I don't like it. I don't like it either. That night, after Chloe was asleep, Ethan sat on his balcony and stared at the harbor. He felt angry, exhausted, trapped. His phone buzzed, a text from Selena. I'm sorry, I never wanted this for you. He typed back. I know. Maybe I should leave, go back to New York and deal with this from there. Ethan stared at the message. Part of him wanted to tell her yes. Leave. Take the chaos with her. Let him and Chloe go back to their quiet, invisible life. But another part of him, the part that had watched her cry in his kitchen, that had seen her fight when most people would have given up, couldn't let her go. Don't leave, he typed. We'll figure it out. You're sure? I'm sure. There was a long pause, then, thank you. Ethan set down his phone and closed his eyes. He wasn't sure if he was making the right choice, but he was making the only choice that felt like he could live with. The next few days were brutal. The media attention didn't fade. It intensified. Reporters camped outside Ethan's apartment. They followed him to the marina. They tried to interview Chloe's teachers. Someone leaked Ethan's financial records, showing how close he was to losing everything. The narrative shifted. Now he wasn't just a gold digger, he was a desperate man using a vulnerable woman. It didn't matter that none of it was true. The story had taken on a life of its own. Selena stopped leaving her rental house. Her lawyers advised her to stay out of sight until the investigation into Marcus Hale was complete. But the isolation was killing her. Ethan could hear it in her voice during their nightly phone calls. I don't know how much longer I can do this, she admitted one night. You're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm falling apart. Then fall apart. I'll be here when you're ready to put yourself back together. There was silence on the other end of the line. Then, why are you so nice to me? Because you deserve it. I don't. Yes, you do. Another silence. Longer this time. Ethan? Yeah? I think I'm falling in love with you. Ethan's breath caught. Selena? I know it's a terrible time to say it. I know everything's a mess and we're both drowning, but I needed you to know. Because if this all goes to hell, I want you to know that you mattered. You and Chloe, you're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Ethan didn't know what to say. His feelings for Selena were complicated, tangled up with fear and exhaustion and something that felt dangerously close to hope. I care about you too, he said finally, but I need to protect Chloe. She's been through enough. I know I would never hurt her. I know you wouldn't mean to. But this situation, it's already hurting her. Kids at school are saying things. Parents are talking. She doesn't understand why. So what do we do? I don't know. The truth was, Ethan didn't know anything anymore. He didn't know how to fix this. He didn't know how to protect Chloe from the fallout. He didn't know if what he felt for Selena was real or just a product of the chaos they'd been thrown into together. All he knew was that he was tired and scared and desperately hoping that somehow this would all work out. 2 weeks after the press conference, Marcus Hale was arrested. The FBI had enough evidence to charge him with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. Selena's name was cleared. The media coverage shifted overnight. Now she was the hero, the whistleblower who'd taken down a corrupt executive. Ethan watched the news with Chloe curled up beside him on the couch. Is Selena going to be okay now? Chloe asked. Yeah, sweetheart. I think she is. Can she come over for dinner? Ethan hesitated. Maybe. We'll see. But the truth was, he didn't know if Selena would come back to Grayport now that the danger had passed. She had a company to run, a life to rebuild. And Ethan, he was just the guy who'd helped her when she needed it. That night his phone rang. It's over, Selena said. Her voice was shaking. Marcus is in custody. The board's calling an emergency meeting. They want me back. That's good. Yeah, it is. A pause. Ethan, I need to go back to New York. I know, but I don't want to. Ethan's chest tightened. Selena, I know this is crazy. I know we barely know each other, but these past few weeks, they've been the realest thing I've experienced in years. And I don't want to lose that. You're not losing it. You're just going back to your life. What if I don't want that life anymore? Ethan didn't know how to answer that, because part of him wanted to tell her to stay, to choose him and Chloe over the billions and the boardrooms and the empire she'd spent her whole life building. But that was selfish, and Ethan Vale had spent too many years learning to put other people first. You have to go back, he said quietly. You have a responsibility to your company, to the people who work for you. You can't just walk away from that. Why not? Because it's who you are, and I wouldn't want you to be anyone else. Selena was crying now. He could hear it in her breathing. I'm going to miss you, she whispered. I'm going to miss you too. Will you let me say goodbye to Chloe? Of course. They made plans for Selena to come over the next day. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. When Selena arrived the next afternoon, Chloe ran to her immediately. Selena, Daddy said you might not come back. Selena knelt down and pulled Chloe into a hug. I'll always come back to see you, sweetheart. I promise. Do you have to go? Yeah, I have to go fix some things. But I'll visit, okay? Chloe nodded, even though tears were streaming down her face. Ethan watched them, his throat tight. After Chloe went to her room to play, Selena turned to Ethan. This isn't goodbye, she said. I know. I mean it. I'm going to come back. Selena, you don't have to make promises you can't keep. I'm not. She stepped closer. Ethan, I don't know what happens next. I don't know if this thing between us is real or if it's just trauma bonding or whatever. But I know I want to find out. And I know I'm not ready to let you go. Ethan looked at her. This woman who'd crashed into his life and turned everything upside down. This woman who was brilliant and broken and brave in ways he'd never be. I'm not ready either, he admitted. Selena kissed him then. It was soft and tentative, like she was afraid he'd pull away. He didn't. When they broke apart, she was crying again. "I'll call you," she said. "You better eat." She left that evening, and Ethan stood on his balcony, watching the taillights of her car disappear down the road. Chloe came out and stood beside him. "Is she coming back?" Chloe asked. Ethan put his arm around his daughter. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope she does." "Me too." They stood there together, looking out at the harbor, and for the first time in weeks, the world felt quiet again. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the worst wasn't over yet. The feeling came 3 days after Selena left. Ethan was walking Chloe home from school when he noticed the black sedan parked across the street from his apartment. Same make and model as the one that had shown up at the marina weeks earlier. Different plates, but the windows were tinted the same way. He kept walking, keeping his pace normal, his hand tight around Chloe's. "Daddy, you're squeezing too hard," Chloe said. "Sorry, sweetheart." He loosened his grip but didn't let go. When they got inside, he locked the door and checked every window. The sedan was still there. Ethan's stomach twisted. Marcus Hale was in custody. The investigation was over. So why was someone watching him? He called Selena. It went to voicemail. He tried again. Same thing. That night, Ethan barely slept. Every sound made him tense. Every shadow outside his window felt like a threat. At 2 a.m, he got up and checked on Chloe. She was curled up with her stuffed dinosaur, completely unaware of the danger circling them. He wanted to keep it that way. The next morning, the sedan was gone, but Ethan's unease remained. He dropped Chloe off at school and went straight to the marina. Danny was already there, working on a laptop in the back office. "I need a favor," Ethan said. Danny looked up. "Another one? You're running up quite a tab." "I'm serious. Someone's watching me." Danny's expression shifted. "What do you mean watching you?" Ethan explained about the sedan. Danny listened, then pulled up a security feed from the marina's cameras. "Let me check the last few days," Danny muttered, typing quickly. He found it within minutes. The same black sedan had been parked near the marina entrance twice in the past week. Different times, different angles, but always there. "Who do you think it is?" Danny asked. "I don't know, but it's connected to Selena somehow. It has to be." "You think it's Hale's people?" "Maybe. Or someone else who doesn't want the investigation to go any further." Danny leaned back in his chair. "You need to tell someone. Police, FBI. Someone." "And say what? That I saw a car parked on a public street? Fair point." Danny rubbed his jaw. "All right. I'll keep monitoring the cameras. If they show up again, I'll get better footage. License plate, driver, whatever I can. Thanks." "Ethan." Danny's voice was serious. "If someone's actually following you, you need to be careful, especially with Chloe." "I know." But knowing and being able to do something about it were two different things. That afternoon, Ethan finally got through to Selena. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Ethan, hi. Sorry, I've been in meetings non-stop. Someone's following me." Silence. "What?" Her voice sharpened. He told her about the sedan, the surveillance footage, the feeling that he was being watched. "It could be nothing," he said, "but after everything that's happened..." "It's not nothing." Selena's voice was tight. "Marcus had associates, people who were involved in the fraud. If they think you have information, I don't have anything. They don't know that." Ethan felt cold. "Selena, what the hell did you drag me into?" "I'm sorry, I thought it was over. I thought once Marcus was arrested..." "Well, it's not over. I know. I'm going to fix this." "How?" "I don't know yet, but I will. Just be careful. Keep Chloe safe." "I'm trying." After they hung up, Ethan sat in his truck for a long time, staring at nothing. He'd told himself he was helping Selena because it was the right thing to do, because she needed someone, because he cared. But now Chloe was in danger, and that changed everything. 2 days later, it got worse. Ethan received an envelope at the marina. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It was Chloe, leaving school, taken from across the street. Recent. She was wearing the jacket Ethan had bought her last week, written on the back in block letters, "Stay quiet." Ethan's hand shook. Rage and fear hit him in equal measure, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. Someone had photographed his daughter. Someone was threatening her. He called Selena immediately. This time she picked up on the first ring. "They sent me a photo of Chloe," he said, his voice barely controlled. "What?" He described it. Selena swore, her composure cracking. "I'm coming back," she said. "No, you need to stay there and figure out who the hell is doing this." "Ethan, I mean it, Selena. If you come back, you'll just make it worse. They're using Chloe to get to you, to keep you quiet. So you need to finish this. Find out who's behind it and stop them." I can't just leave you to deal with this alone. You already did." It came out harsher than he meant it to. Selena went silent. "I'm sorry," Ethan said after a moment. "That wasn't fair." "No, you're right." Her voice was thick. "I pulled you into this, and now Chloe's paying for it. Just fix it, please." "I will. I promise." After they hung up, Ethan went to pick up Chloe early from school. He told the principal there was a family emergency and that no one, absolutely no one, was allowed to pick her up except him or Mrs. Chen. The principal, a kind woman named Mrs. Alvarez, saw something in his face that made her nod without asking questions. "We'll keep her safe," she said. Ethan wanted to believe her. That night, Chloe asked why he kept checking the windows. "Just making sure everything's locked," Ethan said. "Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. Everything's fine." But Chloe wasn't stupid. She was 6, but she'd learned early how to read her father's moods. "Is it because of Selena?" she asked quietly. Ethan knelt down beside her. "Why would you think that?" "Because people got mad when she was here. And now she's gone, and you're sad." "I'm not sad." "Yes, you are." Ethan pulled her into a hug. "I miss her. But that's not your fault, okay? None of this is your fault." "I miss her too," Chloe whispered. "I know, kiddo. Is she ever coming back?" "I hope so." But Ethan wasn't sure anymore. Selena had gone back to her world of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. And he was stuck here, trying to protect his daughter from threats he couldn't see. Maybe this was always how it was going to end. The next morning, Danny called. "I got something," he said. Ethan met him at the marina. Danny pulled up footage from the previous night, a clear shot of the black sedan parked near the docks. This time, the driver had gotten out. Middle-aged man, suit, cold expression. "I ran the plate," Danny said. "It's registered to a private security firm based in New York, the kind that does corporate work, intimidation, surveillance. So they're professionals." "Yeah, which means they're not going away." Ethan stared at the screen. "Can you find out who hired them?" "Maybe, but it'll take time." "How much time?" "A few days, maybe a week." Ethan didn't have a week. He needed answers now. He called Selena again. This time she was ready. "I've been digging," she said without preamble. "Marcus had a partner, someone on the board who helped him set up the offshore accounts. I think they're the ones coming after you." "Who?" "Her name is Victoria Lang. She's been on the board for 10 years, clean record. But I found irregular wire transfers from her personal accounts to the same shell companies Marcus used. So she's trying to cover her tracks." "Exactly. And if you or I talk to the FBI about her, she's finished. Then let's talk to them." "I already did. They're opening a secondary investigation, but it'll take time to build a case." I don't have time, Selena. These people sent me a photo of my daughter." "I know, and I'm going to stop them, but you need to stay low until I do." Ethan laughed bitterly. "Stay low, right, because that's working so well." "Ethan, no. You don't get it. You're in New York, surrounded by lawyers and security. I'm here, alone, trying to protect a 6-year-old from people who don't care who they hurt. So forgive me if I'm not feeling patient." Selena was quiet for a long moment. "You're right," she said finally. "I don't get it. I've spent my whole life insulated from consequences. I've had money and power and people to fix my problems. But you're dealing with this because of me. And I hate that." "Then do something about it." "I am. I swear I am." Ethan wanted to believe her, but belief didn't stop the sedan from parking outside his apartment. It didn't stop the fear that gripped him every time Chloe walked out the door. That weekend, Ethan took Chloe to the lighthouse. It was the only place he could think of where they might be safe, isolated, visible, hard to approach without being seen. They sat on the grass and watched the waves crash against the rocks. Chloe was quieter than usual. "Daddy?" she said after a while. "Yeah? Are bad people trying to hurt us?" Ethan's chest tightened. "What makes you think that?" "Because you're scared, and you're never scared." He wanted to lie, to tell her everything was fine, but Chloe deserved better than that. "Some people are angry about things that happened with Selena," he said carefully, "and they're trying to make us scared so we don't talk about it. But I'm not going to let them hurt you, ever." "What if they try?" "Then I'll stop them." "How?" "I don't know yet, but I will." Chloe leaned against him. "I wish Selena was here." "Me too, sweetheart." They stayed at the lighthouse until the sun started to set. Then Ethan drove them home, checking his mirrors the entire way. The sedan didn't follow them, but Ethan knew it was only a matter of time. That night, everything fell apart. Ethan had just put Chloe to bed when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Vale?" The voice was male, calm, professional. "My name is irrelevant. What matters is that you've been asking questions you shouldn't be asking." Ethan's blood went cold. "Who is this?" "Basubi." "Tites. I represent someone with a vested interest in your silence. You've already received one warning. This is your second. There won't be a third. If you touch my daughter, then don't make me." The voice was still calm, almost pleasant. "All you have to do is stay quiet. Don't talk to the FBI. Don't talk to the media. And most importantly, don't help Selena Arden anymore. Do that, and your daughter stays safe. And if I don't, then you'll learn what happens to people who don't listen." The line went dead. Ethan stood there, his heart pounding, his hands shaking with rage. He called Selena. "They just threatened me," he said when she answered. Directly. "They said if I don't stay quiet, they'll hurt Chloe." Selena swore. "I'm coming back, tonight." "No, that's what they want. They want you back here where they can control you." "I don't care." "You need help. What I need is for you to finish this. Find Victoria Lang. Get the evidence. End it." "Ethan?" "Please." His voice cracked. "Please just end it." Selena was crying now. He could hear it. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. I know. I never meant for any of this to happen. I know. I love you." The words hung in the air between them. Ethan closed his eyes. "I love you too, but that doesn't change what's happening." "Then let me fix it." "You keep saying that, but how? How are you going to fix this?" "I don't know yet, but I will. I swear." After they hung up, Ethan sat on his couch in the dark, his head in his hands. He'd made a mistake. A terrible, irreversible mistake. He'd let Selena into his life, and now Chloe was paying the price, and he had no idea how to make it stop. The next day, Chloe didn't go to school. Ethan kept her home, telling Mrs. Chen he wasn't feeling well. He couldn't risk sending her out where someone could grab her. They spent the day inside, playing games and watching movies. Chloe sensed his mood and didn't ask questions. But that evening, while Ethan was making dinner, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Another photo. This time it was his apartment building, taken from the street. Recent. The message below it, "We know where you sleep." Ethan's vision blurred. His hands shook so badly, he nearly dropped the phone. They were watching him. Right now. Outside his home. And there was nothing he could do about it. He looked at Chloe, sitting on the couch with her dinosaur book, completely unaware of the danger surrounding them. He couldn't stay here. Not anymore. Ethan packed a bag quickly. Clothes for him and Chloe, toiletries, her stuffed dinosaur. He told her they were going on a little trip. "Where, Lay?" Chloe asked. "Somewhere safe." "Are the bad people following us?" Ethan knelt down and looked her in the eyes. "Yes, but I'm not going to let them hurt you. Okay?" Chloe nodded, her face serious. They left through the back entrance of the building and got into Ethan's truck. He drove without a destination, just trying to put distance between them and whoever was watching. After 20 minutes, he pulled into a motel on the outskirts of town. It was the kind of place that didn't ask questions. He paid cash for a room and locked the door behind them. Chloe sat on the bed, clutching her dinosaur. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered. Ethan sat beside her and pulled her close. "I know, sweetheart. I'm scared too." "When will it be over?" "Soon, I hope." But he didn't know if that was true. That night, while Chloe slept, Ethan called Selena one more time. "I need you to promise me something," he said. "Anything. If something happens to me, you take care of Chloe. Ethan, don't promise me." Selena's voice broke. "I promise, but nothing's going to happen to you. You don't know that. I won't let it. Selena, I mean it." Her voice was fierce now, almost desperate. "I'm not losing you. I'm not losing Chloe. I'm going to end this. Tonight." "What are you talking about?" "Victoria Lang, I know where she is, and I'm going to make her confess." "That's insane. You can't watch me." "Selena, if you confront her alone." "I won't be alone. I'm bringing my lawyers and the FBI, and I'm recording everything." "That's dangerous." "I don't care. This ends tonight." Ethan wanted to argue, but he heard the determination in her voice and knew there was no stopping her. "Be careful," he said. "You too." After they hung up, Ethan lay awake in the dark motel room, listening to Chloe breathe. He thought about the moment he'd first seen Selena, standing in the rain by her wrecked SUV. He thought about how she'd looked at him like he was something more than just a tired mechanic trying to survive. He thought about the life they could have had if the world had been different. And he thought about how much he loved her, even though it terrified him. Hours later, his phone rang. It was Selena. Her voice was shaking. "I got her," she said. "Victoria confessed. The FBI has everything. It's over." Ethan exhaled, relief flooding through him. "You're sure?" "I'm sure. They arrested her an hour ago." "And the security firm, they've been shut down. No one's coming after you anymore." Ethan closed his eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is my fault." "No, it's not." Selena was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can I come see you?" "Now?" "Now, Shop." Ethan looked at Chloe, still asleep on the motel bed. "Yeah, we're at the Sunrise Motel off Route 9. I'll be there in 2 hours." "Selena, drive safely." "I will." When she arrived, it was nearly 3 in the morning. Ethan met her outside, and the moment he saw her, something in his chest broke open. Selena looked exhausted. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red from crying, but she was here. "Is it really over?" Ethan asked. "It's really over." He pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed against him, shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Stop apologizing. I almost got you killed." "But you didn't." They stood there in the parking lot, holding each other, while the world spun quietly around them. Finally, Selena pulled back. "Can I see Chloe?" "She's asleep." "I know. I need to see her." They went inside. Chloe was curled up on the bed, her face peaceful. Selena sat beside her and gently brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "She's okay," Ethan said softly. "Because of you." "Because of both of us." Selena looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "What happens now?" Ethan didn't have an answer, because the crisis was over, but nothing else had been resolved. Selena still had a company to run. Ethan still had a life in Grayport. And Chloe, she deserved stability, not chaos. "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "Can I stay? Just for tonight?" "Yeah, of course." Selena lay down beside Chloe, and Ethan stretched out on the other bed, watching them both. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe. But he also knew this moment wouldn't last, because eventually the sun would rise, and Selena would have to go back to her world, and Ethan would have to figure out how to live in his without her. Morning came too soon. Ethan woke to the sound of Chloe whispering excitedly. He opened his eyes and saw her sitting cross-legged on the bed, showing Selena her stuffed dinosaur. "And this is Gerald. He's a T-Rex, but he's nice. He doesn't eat people." Selena smiled, her voice still rough from sleep. "That's very considerate of him. Do you want to hold him?" "I'd be honored." Chloe handed over the dinosaur solemnly, like she was passing on something sacred. Selena accepted it with equal seriousness, and something in Ethan's chest cracked open. This was what he'd been afraid of, this exact moment, because watching them together felt too much like a family, and families could break your heart when they fell apart. Selena looked over at him. Their eyes met, and he saw the same fear reflected back at him. "Morning," she said quietly. "Morning." Chloe turned. "Daddy, Selena's here. Can we get pancakes?" Ethan sat up, rubbing his face. "Yeah, sweetheart, we can get pancakes." They checked out of the motel and drove to the Bluebird Diner. It was early enough that the place was nearly empty. They slid into a booth, Chloe between them, and ordered breakfast. For a little while, it felt normal. Chloe chattered about dinosaurs and school and the book Mrs. Chen had been reading to her. Selena listened with that complete focus she always had, like Chloe was the most important person in the world. Ethan watched them and tried to memorize the moment, because he knew it wouldn't last. After breakfast, they drove back to Ethan's apartment. The black sedan was gone. The street was quiet. Everything looked normal, but Ethan still felt tense as they walked inside. Chloe immediately ran to her room to check on her rock collection. Selena stood in the middle of the living room, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. "I forgot how small this place is," she said. "Yeah, it's not a penthouse." "I didn't mean it like that." She turned to him. "I meant it's home. You can feel it. Chloe's drawings on the fridge, your coffee mug by the sink. It's lived in, real." "As opposed to what?" "As opposed to the places I've lived. Hotel rooms with good views, apartments that look like magazine spreads. Nothing that actually felt like mine." Ethan leaned against the counter. "So what happens now?" Selena's expression shifted. The question they'd both been avoiding. "I have to go back to New York," she said. "The board's calling an emergency meeting. They want to restructure the company after everything with Marcus and Victoria. I need to be there." "I know, but I don't want to go." "Selena, I mean it. These past few weeks, hiding in Grayport, fixing engines, eating diner food, it's been the happiest I've been in years, and I don't want to lose that." Ethan's throat tightened. "You can't just walk away from your life." "Why not?" "Because you'd regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not next month, but eventually you'd wake up and wonder what you gave up, and you'd resent me for it. You don't know that." "But yes, I do. Because I know you. You're not someone who runs away from responsibility. You're someone who fights. And your company, your employees, they need you." Selena's eyes filled with tears. "What if I need you more?" "You don't. You just think you do because I'm the first person in a long time who didn't want something from you." "That's not true, isn't it?" Selena looked away. "You're right. About some of it. I do have responsibilities, people depending on me. But that doesn't mean I can't choose something different. I could step down, appoint a new CEO, use my money to do something else." "Like what?" "I don't know. Something that matters. Something real." Ethan crossed his arms. "And you think hiding out in a small town fixing boats is real? More real than what I've been doing?" "Maybe, but it's not your life." "It could be." "No, it couldn't." Ethan's voice was firm now. "Because you'd be running away. And I'm not going to be the excuse you use to avoid the things that scare you." Selena flinched like he'd slapped her. "That's not fair. None of this is fair, but it's true." They stared at each other, the silence heavy between them. Finally, Selena said, "So what are you saying? That we're done?" "I'm saying you need to go back and figure out who you are without me, without Grayport. And if you still want this, want us, then we'll figure it out. And if you meet someone else while I'm gone?" Ethan almost laughed. "Who am I going to meet? The entire town thinks I'm a gold digger. And even if I did meet someone, it wouldn't matter, because I'm in love with you." Selena's breath caught. "You've never said that before." Selena's breath. "I'm saying it now." She crossed the room and kissed him. It was desperate and fierce, like she was trying to memorize the shape of his mouth. Ethan kissed her back, his hands in her hair, wishing things could be different. When they broke apart, Selena was crying. "I don't want to leave," she whispered. "I know, but you have to." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Will you let me say goodbye to Chloe?" "Of course." They went to Chloe's room. She was sitting on the floor, organizing her rocks by size. "Chloe, sweetheart," Selena said gently, "I need to go back to New York today." Chloe looked up, her face falling. "But you just got here." "I know, but I have work I need to finish." "When will you come back?" Selena glanced at Ethan, then back at Chloe. "I don't know yet, but I promise I'll visit as soon as I can." "Do you promise? Promise will skin to robots. I promise. Chloe stood up and hugged Selena tightly. Selena closed her eyes, holding on like she never wanted to let go. "I'm going to miss you," Chloe said. "I'm going to miss you too, so much." When Selena finally pulled away, her face was wet with tears. She kissed the top of Chloe's head, then stood and walked out of the room before she could fall apart completely. Ethan followed her to the door. "Take care of yourself," he said. "You too. And Selena, don't forget about us." She smiled through her tears. "Never." Then she was gone. Ethan stood in the doorway, watching her car disappear down the street. Chloe came and stood beside him, slipping her small hand into his. "Is she coming back?" Chloe asked. "I hope so, sweetheart." "Me too." They went inside and Ethan closed the door. The weeks that followed were strange, quiet, empty in a way Ethan hadn't expected. He went back to work at the marina. Chloe went back to school. Life returned to its normal rhythm, but it felt wrong somehow, like a song playing in the wrong key. Selena called every few days. She told him about the board meetings, the restructuring, the media circus that followed her everywhere. She sounded exhausted, overwhelmed, but she also sounded determined. "I'm setting up a foundation," she told him one night, "to support small coastal communities, job training programs, small business grants, infrastructure improvements." "That's great. I want Grayport to be the first place we invest in." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "Because it gave me something I didn't know I needed, and I want to give something back." "Selena, you don't owe us anything." "I know, but I want to do it anyway." She was true to her word. Within a month, the Arden Foundation announced a $10 million investment in Grayport. The marina was renovated. Small businesses received grants. The harbor was dredged and expanded. Ethan watched it all happen with mixed feelings. He was grateful for the help, but part of him wondered if Selena was trying to buy her way back into his good graces. He didn't want her money. He wanted her. But he didn't tell her that, because she needed to figure out her own life first. 3 months after Selena left, Ethan got a call from Danny. "You need to see this," Danny said. Ethan went to the marina office. Danny pulled up a news article on his laptop. The headline read, "Selena Arden steps down as CEO of Arden Technologies." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What?" "She announced it this morning. Said she's appointing a new CEO and stepping back to focus on the foundation." "What?" Ethan read the article quickly. Selena had given a press conference explaining her decision. She talked about wanting to do work that mattered, about realizing that corporate success wasn't the same as personal fulfillment. And at the end of the article, she'd said something that made Ethan's chest ache. "I spent my whole life chasing power and money because I thought that's what would make me happy. But the happiest I've ever been was when I had neither of those things. I was just a person, helping someone I cared about, in a town that didn't care who I was. And I want to find my way back to that feeling." Ethan stared at the screen. Then he called her. "You stepped down," he said when she answered. "You saw. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it." "You're damn right I would have. Selena, you can't just throw away everything you've built." "I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something different. You're choosing me, and that's a mistake." "Why?" "Because I'm not worth it." Selena's voice was sharp. Don't you dare tell me what I should or shouldn't do. I've spent my entire life letting other people make decisions for me. My parents, the board, investors, everyone except me. And for once, I'm choosing what I want. And what I want is you and Chloe. And a life that doesn't revolve around stock prices and quarterly earnings. Ethan didn't know what to say. "I know you're scared," Selena continued, her voice softer now. "I know you think I'm going to regret this. But I won't. Because I finally figured out what actually matters. And it's not money. It's not power. It's people. It's connection. It's waking up next to someone who makes you feel like yourself. And I feel like myself with you. Ethan closed his eyes. What if it doesn't work? Then it doesn't work. But at least we tried. You're insane. Probably. Is that a yes? To what? To letting me come back. To giving this a real shot. To letting me be part of your life and Chloe's life. For real this time. Not just visiting, not just hiding, actually being there. Ethan thought about all the reasons he should say no. The instability, the risk, the possibility that Chloe would get hurt if things fell apart. But he also thought about the way Selena looked at his daughter like she was the most important person in the world. The way she'd fought to protect them even when it put her own life in danger. The way she made him feel like he was more than just a tired single father barely holding things together. Yeah, he said finally. It's a yes. Selena let out a breath that might have been a sob. Thank you, but I have conditions. Okay? You don't move here right away. You visit first, regularly. And we take things slow, because Chloe needs stability, and I'm not going to let her get attached to you again if you're going to leave. I'm not going to leave. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Selena, Ethan, I love you. I love Chloe, and I'm not going anywhere. So you're just going to have to get used to that. Despite everything, Ethan smiled. You're stubborn. So are you. Fair point, man. They talked for another hour, making plans. Selena would come to Grayport the following weekend. They'd start slow, dinners, weekends, no pressure, and they'd see where it went. When they finally hung up, Ethan felt lighter than he had in months. Chloe came running into the room. Was that Selena? Yeah. Is she coming back? Yeah, sweetheart, she's coming back. Chloe's face lit up. Can we get pancakes when she gets here? Ethan laughed. Yeah, we can get pancakes. Selena arrived on a Friday evening, driving the same rental car she'd used when she first came to Grayport. Chloe ran out to meet her before Ethan could stop her, throwing herself into Selena's arms. You came back, Chloe shouted. I told you I would, Selena said, hugging her tightly. Ethan walked over slowly, his hands in his pockets. Selena looked different. She was wearing jeans and a sweater instead of expensive clothes. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked younger, freer. Hey, she said. Hey, is this weird? A little. Good. I was worried it was just me. They stood there awkwardly for a moment, then Selena smiled, and Ethan felt something in his chest settle. Come on, he said. Let's get you inside. That weekend, they fell back into the rhythm they'd had before everything went sideways. Selena helped Ethan at the marina. They took Chloe to the harbor festival. They ate dinner at the Bluebird Diner, and slowly, carefully, they started building something real. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when Selena got a phone call from New York and disappeared for an hour, looking stressed. There were moments when Ethan pulled back, afraid of getting too attached. There were moments when Chloe asked questions neither of them knew how to answer. But they worked through it, together. Over the next few months, Selena rented a small house near the harbor. She split her time between Grayport and New York, managing the foundation remotely. She learned how to cook, badly, but she tried. She went to Chloe's school events. She became friends with Mrs. Chen, and slowly she stopped being the billionaire heiress everyone whispered about and started being just Selena, the woman Ethan loved. One evening, nearly a year after Selena first crashed into their lives, Ethan took her and Chloe out on a small wooden boat he'd been restoring. The harbor was hosting its annual lantern festival, and hundreds of glowing lights floated across the water. Chloe fell asleep against Selena's shoulder, exhausted from the day's excitement. Selena held her gently, her eyes soft. She's gotten so big, Selena said quietly. Yeah, kids do that. I'm glad I get to see it. Yeah. Ethan looked at her. Me too. Selena shifted carefully, trying not to wake Chloe. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret it, letting me into your life? Ethan thought about it. About the chaos and the fear and the nights he'd lain awake wondering if he'd made a terrible mistake. No, he said finally. I don't. Even with everything that happened? Even with that? Selena smiled. Good. Because I have something for you. Eat. She pulled a small carved wooden box from her pocket and handed it to him. Ethan opened it. Inside was a compass, old and beautiful, with intricate engravings around the edges. It's so you never lose your way, Selena said softly. No matter where life takes us. Ethan stared at it, his throat tight. Then he reached into his own pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Selena's eyes widened. Ethan, before you say anything, this isn't a proposal. Not yet. But it's a promise that I'm in this, that I'm not running away, that I want to build a life with you, a real one, messy and complicated and imperfect, but real. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small blue stone. Selena's eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful. It was my grandmother's. She gave it to me before she died and told me to give it to someone who made me believe in second chances. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just don't give up on us. On this. Even when it gets hard. Selena took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I won't, she whispered. I promise. They sat there in the boat, surrounded by floating lanterns and the quiet sound of water lapping against the hull. Chloe slept between them, safe and warm. And for the first time in his life, Ethan Vale felt like he'd found what he'd been searching for without even knowing it. Not perfection, not a fairy tale, just love. Real, messy, complicated love. The kind that didn't fix everything, but made everything worth fighting for. The kind that reminded him that sometimes the best things in life came from the worst circumstances. And sometimes, the people you least expected became the family you'd been waiting for all along. 2 years later, Great Ports Harbor looked completely different. The marina had been expanded and modernized. New businesses lined the waterfront. Tourists came every summer, drawn by the town's charm and the foundation's investments. But the biggest change wasn't visible from the outside. It was in the lives of the people who lived there. Ethan's repair shop had grown into a successful custom boat restoration business. He'd hired 2 employees and was turning down work because he couldn't keep up with demand. Chloe was thriving in school, confident and happy in a way she hadn't been before. And Selena had found something she'd been missing her entire life. Purpose. The foundation had expanded to support dozens of coastal communities. She traveled constantly, meeting with local leaders, listening to their needs, building programs that actually helped. She loved the work in a way she'd never loved corporate life. But she always came home to Greyport, to Ethan, to Chloe, because that's where she belonged. One evening, Ethan found Selena sitting on the porch of the house they now shared, watching the sunset over the harbor. You okay? He asked. She smiled. Yeah, just thinking. About what? About how different my life is now. A few years ago, I was miserable, lonely, surrounded by people but completely alone. And now, she gestured at the house, at the harbor, at him. Now I have this, and it's more than I ever thought I deserved. Ethan sat beside her. You deserve it. I don't know about that, but I'm grateful for it. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Chloe came running out, holding a drawing. Look what I made, she said, shoving the paper at them. It was a picture of the 3 of them standing in front of a boat. Stick figures with big smiles. At the top, in Chloe's careful handwriting, it said, My family. Selena's eyes filled with tears. It's perfect, sweetheart. Can we hang it on the fridge? Absolutely. Chloe beamed and ran back inside. Ethan looked at Selena. You okay? Yeah, I never thought I'd have this. A family. You have one now. You. I know. And I'm not going to take it for granted. Ethan took her hand. Good. Because you're stuck with us. Selena laughed. I can think of worse fates. They sat there together, watching the sun disappear below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. And Ethan realized something he should have understood a long time ago. Life wasn't about finding perfection. It wasn't about avoiding pain or protecting yourself from loss. It was about showing up, being honest, choosing love even when it was terrifying. It was about building something worth fighting for, one imperfect day at a time. Selena had taught him that, and so had Chloe. They taught him that family wasn't just the people you were born to. It was the people who chose you, the people who stayed when things got hard, the people who loved you not in spite of your flaws, but because of them. And maybe that was the real story here. Not about a billionaire who fell from grace or a single father who struggled to survive, but about two broken people who found each other in the middle of a storm and decided to build something beautiful from the wreckage. About a little girl who taught them both what unconditional love looked like. About a small town that reminded them that the best things in life can't be bought or sold. They can only be lived. And about the truth that we're all just trying to find our way home, wherever that might be. For Ethan Vale, home was a house overlooking Grayport Harbor, with a woman who made him laugh and a daughter who made him brave. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was more than enough.